What's up, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through an electric guitar driven trap beat that I made on the Roland MC-101. So without any further introduction, let's start off with the drums. These are mostly custom samples. So we got this gritty kick, this sharp snare that I've sampled off the model cycles, layered with, I think, a built-in clap that's been sent way to the background, and of course, a bunch of hi-hats. This being the main one. We've got some panning going on as well. If you hit Shift Sound and go into the settings for a pad, I've got this stuff panned all over the place. Create a little more audio interest. The part being played is something like this. And you'll notice all these little drums fitting in little pockets. I started off with just a fairly standard beat and then started filling in the gaps to create that whole groove. I should also quickly mention how I'm doing the hi-hat roll. This is kind of a low, rattly hi-hat, once again, panned around a little bit. And if you go into Sequence and hold down the Sequence button, you can choose the amount of note repeat you've got going on. That's how you get hi-hat rolls on the MC-101. And that's pretty much it for the drums. Pretty straightforward. I should also quickly mention before I move on that I've got a multi-effect on the entire drum track. So if I hit Shift, Sound, and then scroll all the way to the end. Let me turn it off, first of all. Turn it on. This is the fattener, which I think is adding some saturation and some compression. Makes the drums pop just a little bit more and adds a little extra grit. Up next. A pretty simple part, but hopefully decently effective for setting the mood. It doesn't sound particularly realistic, and I don't particularly need it to. So there's actually an entire bank of built-in guitar sounds on the MC-101. And they do vary in quality quite a bit, but if you go into presets, you've got all these options for real instruments, including acoustic guitars and electric guitars, and distorted electric guitars. In this case, I just reached into electric guitars, and I did some modification to get this to have the effect I wanted it to have. So if I go into the settings, I can show you that I've increased the decay quite a bit, as well as the release. And if I go into multi-effects, I've got this chorus effect. So let me turn that off. Versus. That really brought it to life. Up next, the 808. This is one of the built-in 808 patches. I use this one absolutely all the time for trap beats on this thing. And in this case, it does tend to mesh fairly well with the kick, although there's not a whole lot of attack going on the sound. I should also quickly mention how I do the 808 slides. This patch actually has the capability for that built into it. It's got glide on it, and you have to activate it by holding down two notes at the same time in sequence. Whereas if I just play them separately, no slide, but if I hold this down and then hit this next note, it does that slide. So I have quite a bit of control over exactly when it does and doesn't slide, which is super nice. And then I've got a bunch of little octave jumps in there as well. And finally, filling everything out is the pad. And I should mention that I very deliberately came up with a chord progression slash bass line that would reharmonize the guitar melody and make it a little less static and have it actually go somewhere. Still fairly simple, but hopefully adds a nice bit of movement. absolutely love this patch. This is another built-in patch, and I've used it on multiple projects. It's just one of my favorites. And then you might have noticed in the intro, I'm adjusting the cutoff a bit to add some movement, raise the energy level over time. And now you can hear how the bass line follows the chord progression. And then this is also sent to a reverb and a delay pretty heavily. That's the basis of the beat. The other thing is for that little tape stop in the intro, I've gone into scatter. And if I hit shift scatter, I can change the settings, and I changed my slit to a quarter. That way it's fairly slow. And that ended up giving me the tape stop effect. Doesn't work so well when drums are playing, but to lead into a beat drop works pretty well. If you would like to see more trap beats on the Roland MC-101, you can click or tap up over here somewhere, and I will be back with a new video in a little bit. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching.